I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. This series of podcasts is aimed at financial planning professionals and also those who are looking to enter the financial planning profession. We will be talking during the podcast about all things certified financial planner certification related, talking to other CFPs around the world, and also we will be dropping in on some new entrants who've just entered the financial planning profession, and we'll be checking up along the way on a regular basis with them to see how they're getting on. I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. And in today's podcast, we are talking all things certified financial planner related with a very special person and a real expert and bookworm, and that is Marlene Outrim. Hello, Marlene.
Hello, Jackie. Thank you for inviting me to do this podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Welcome to the show. And we have lots and lots of things to talk about your business, about Uniq Family Wealth, about books, and a recent book that you have just written. So we're going to get into all of that as well during today's episode. So I'm just going to start off at the very beginning, well, nearly at the very beginning of everything, the very beginning of your journey to become a certified financial planner. And tell us a bit about how you came across the CFP and why you decided to become a CFP professional.
Well, obviously, I came across the CFP through the wonderful Institute of Financial Planning, the IFP. But I was actually introduced to financial planning itself and cash flow modelling from a advisor whose office I shared when I set up on my own. He suggested I rent a room and I could use his reception services and what have you. And he was obviously very much before his time because he had a paraplanner who did cash flow modelling, and he was quite generous and said, you can use him. And he introduced me to cash flow modelling. And through him, I then learned about Paul Etheridge, listened to some of Paul's tapes about how he conducted meetings. And I thought, that's how I want to run my meetings. And got introduced to the Institute of Financial Planning, started to attend, and realised that that was the way to go. That was the way I wanted to forge my professional career. And realising that in order to get the best qualification and show people that I could be a true financial planner was to get the CFP.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? I think the IFP has been responsible for many of us really understanding what the difference between financial advice and financial planning, haven't they?
It really has. And the thing about the IFP is that everybody was so helpful and friendly. You could go there and ask people about their businesses, ask for advice and assistance, and people would be all too willing to give and help you out. So that was the one thing I liked about the IFP, that you could go to meetings, you could go to conferences. And at that time, I was probably one of the few women attending, perhaps the only one sometimes. But I felt at home there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, I completely agree because I did too. I can remember going to my first conference, the IFP conference in 1999. And I think you were only one of, I think, 3 women that I can remember being in the room when we had the black tie dinner in the evening.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember the old days when it was at Cambridge. Yeah. Was it Cambridge? And yes. 1992 was when I joined the IFP.
Gosh, wow. Yeah.
So we're going back some years now.
Yeah. And so, but even before you got into financial planning, I know from many discussions that we've had over the years that you have other kind of relevant roles that perhaps to an outsider might seem not terribly relevant, of things that you've done kind of in a previous life before becoming a financial planner, haven't you?
Yes, well, I started off really doing admin work, and I went to night school to do accountancy, and I thought I'd become a company secretary, but I quickly realised that I wanted to work with people, not numbers. And so I went and trained to become a probation officer, and that's what I did for 13 years. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a very demanding job. It was very varied. But the skills that I was taught were immense. I was taught family therapy, transactional analysis, group work, marital studies, teaching to larger groups. And it was absolutely fantastic. But the role was changing over that time, and it was becoming more policing. And I thought, I don't want to end up for the rest of my working life doing this. And I started to look around. And really, I wanted to work for myself, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And at the time, financial services were beckoning all and sundry to come get trained, set up your own business. And quite naively, as my chief probation officer said, when I left, that I was going into uncharted waters. I went and joined an investment company selling products, tied products, they would call it now, for that company. And I was actually appalled at the lack of professionalism and the product bashing and people. But in some ways, I was in awe. So advisors would say to me, I'm going to see a client today. I'm going to sell an investment of 20,000, which was a lot in those days.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a bond. And I used to think, that's amazing. How do they know they're going to do that before they actually go to the...
Yes. Have you even spoken to the client?
Yeah, that's right. And I went around saying, I don't know how to sell. I really don't know how to sell. Can you teach me how to sell? But some of the methods were so contrived. So they'd say, well, when you come to get them to sign a document, cover it up with a piece of paper and don't ask them to sign it, ask them to authorize it. I was just appalled. I thought, I can't do things like that.
Yes.
And I nearly left. I thought I'd come from what I called a profession. I was respected by the legal and judiciary communities as well. And I thought, I can't do this. And so I then joined an independent financial advisor. And that was better because you could choose from an array of products. So I wasn't tied, I wasn't restricted. And that gave me the freedom that I sought. But I still felt slightly frustrated. And I sort of made my mark with financial independent taxation. So I would go in and see couples and say, well, I can save you a certain amount of money if you just change your accounts and have them separately rather than jointly. And it was an introduction. And then I started to do sort of cash flow planning, would you believe it, on a fact packet type of effect.
Yes.
I mean, it was very rudimentary, but I knew that's the way I wanted to go.
Yeah.
But then I realized when I thought I couldn't sell, the only way I could introduce myself and work with the client was to go back to what I knew and what I learned in the probation service. So very, very basic, just know the name of your client. Go with no preconceived ideas or perceptions. Treat everybody as a unique individual. Applying those, it meant I got a much better relationship with the clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went around and I was seeing clients who'd seen an advisor and they said, we've seen them once, they sold me this, or I did this investment and I haven't seen them again. But I really would like to do something about inheritance tax. Or I don't think I've got enough income, but I've got all these investments. What should I do? And then I realized these people needed somebody to give them ongoing advice. And they needed a relationship. And they needed a professional relationship, apart from being friendly. And so that's how I set out my business. That was my purpose of my business, to do that. And so all the personal skills that I learned as a probation officer came into their own, really.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it, how so many people both you and I have come across in the profession over the years have always said they've kind of fallen into financial planning and into the financial advice world. But I think you you can bring, as long as you you take off the labels off the things that you did previously. There's so much that, clearly you have brought and do bring to the table, to benefit both the profession, the wider profession, and also your clients on a daily basis. That must have been quite a revelation for those clients to have you with them each year upon year.
And some of those clients are still with me.
Yeah.
Some of my clients have been with me for 30 years, 25 years, because of that ongoing relationship.
Yes.
But apart from the ongoing relationship, and some you might call friends, I still give them sound advice.
Yeah. Well, that's the ethics in you, isn't it, Marlene? Ethics through and through. So let's, your business model when you started, and, let's just talk about how it's developed over the years. Do you offer now for a new client to come? Is it, do you offer a different service for different clients, or is it financial plan? You get a full financial plan, or nothing?
Our proposition is based on cash flow modelling.
Yeah.
So if people don't want to go down that route, we don't take them on.
Yeah.
So our advice is based on the foundation of the cash flow modelling and the client's objectives. So that's we have a Uniq Family Wealth programme, and part one, it's the 6-step process of financial planning.
Yes.
And you can put different labels on that. But part one is our discovery meeting, and we lay it all out in our terms. And they pay a fee for that.
Yeah.
And I won't offset the fee because I think it devalues the cash flow.
Yeah.
But we let the clients know that once they've seen the cash flow and they're happy with it, if they don't want to go any further, they can just pay their fee and walk away. They never walk away, but we give them that permission and freedom. They don't feel obliged.
No.
And what we say to them is, what we will do first is look at your current situation. If we make no changes at all, this is what will happen. And again, I think that gives people comfort and reassurance that we're not going to be selling them something straight away.
Yes. Yeah. And I've been having those conversations quite recently with people going through their CFP case studies. And we're looking at, obviously in those, they're, a fictitious case study, as you know, and it's about the size of the hole rather than if there is one. But I guess that's quite a common theme with many clients that you may have come across, is it?
Yes, it is, because even if they come brandishing a pension policy or something, we always say we'll put that to one side and we'll look at it at some stage. We want to know about you and how you want to live the rest of your life. What do you want to do? Have you thought about it? And we focus on that in our first meeting. And if we do that and we do it well, the client will come on board, they'll accept the fee. And then we generally have the strategy meeting, which includes all the cash flow analysis and research. We make various recommendations. Well, they give us a brief, basically. So through that engagement of the cash flow, they will tell us if they're concerned about inheritance tax, they're concerned about high income tax payments that they're making, what they want to do about their children, anything like it will all come in that. And we have a brief then for a written financial plan. So they're telling us what they want to address rather than us telling them what they must address or what they should address.
Yeah. And I guess that's it. It's, the financial plan gives you that structure, and the 6-step process helps you, doesn't it? But it's not something to be that rigid. It gives you also the flexibility to, be able to accommodate different clients' wishes and also their priorities. I mean, I guess, many clients have what they feel is the top priority, but actually you might feel there are other things that are more of a priority.
Well, I always say it's not my life, it's theirs. It's not my money, it's theirs. So however they want to spend their lives or however they want to spend their money, it's up to them.
Yeah.
Often clients will say to me, is this enough when we look at their cost of their standard of living? And I say, I haven't a clue. It's your life. You know, we've
Yes.
got some clients who spend 100,000 a year and others who spend 20,000 a year.
Yes. Yeah. And in your experience, you know, with your clients, is that one of their biggest worries that you come across? You know, have I got enough?
That is one of the worries, particularly if they're still working and they're thinking about retirement. Will I have enough in retirement? I've got all these plans, pension schemes. I don't know what they will do, what they will provide for me in the future. And it's helping them to make sense of them all and putting their finances and their assets in some order so they can understand. I mean, you've heard all the stories about people coming with boxes and envelopes of documents and policies, and they can't make sense of them.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that the cash flow does. It gives them a nice, neat order of what they own, what they earn, and what they can expect.
Yes. Yeah. Sets it all out in nice, easy to understand terms, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's not complicated. It's not overly detailed.
Yeah. And that's where your first book came in, wasn't it? Because your first book was all about retirement.
Yes, well, a number of my clients are retired. And what I was observing was that even coming up to retirement, people were talking about retirement in different ways. When I'd heard people talk about retirement years ago, it was finish work, just have a rest from all those working years, all the times they've had to get up early, go out and slave away, and just have a rest and a respite, and maybe do a spot of gardening, but nothing too arduous. And what I was finding is that people didn't want to give up work when they reached so-called retirement age. They maybe wanted to phase, or they maybe wanted to do something different, but they still wanted purpose in life. And also I found that they knew they'd acquired skills and experience, which they were loath to give up.
Yes.
And society has a way of ignoring those skills and experience when people get older, instead of acknowledging that they've actually got an abundance of them that can contribute to society. So that's what I was seeing. And also, you know, if clients have been successful and earned money and saved, they had nice houses, they went on holidays, they stayed in nice hotels, had quality cars, they gave to their children, they were very active, they were health conscious, and they wanted to continue to do all of those things well onto retirement.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think I've seen it with people who have, you know, where factories have shut down here close to me locally, where people have initially said, that's it, you know, I'm in my late 50s, I'm actually going to stop, I'm just going to do nothing. And, you know, a couple of months on, 6 months on, they're all saying, oh, I need to get a job. You know, I want to keep my brain ticking over. You know, I've still got good skills that I can offer. And it doesn't matter essentially what kind of job you had before you retired. Everybody still has skills to offer, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, some people just want to do voluntary work. They don't necessarily want the pay, but they want a purpose in life. And so I found that a number of my clients do all sorts of things. They're very active, well into their late 70s, 80s. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and if you're keeping your brain active and doing something that you love, then that helps, you know, with physical health as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then that led you on. What's happened between then and now? Because your new book, as you're turning into a little media star, rather a big media star, your new book, Cascading Your Wealth, tell us about how that came about after your first book about looking into, you know, people's retirement.
Well, over the last 2 to 3 years, I think I thought about writing this book. And again, it was prompted by clients. Whenever we got to the subject of inheritance tax, there were always these questions they wanted to ask and issues they wanted to explore. So, for example, if it was should we give money to our children, there'd be a discussion, or I would encourage a discussion about the children. Did they want to give to the children equally? Did they want to give to the children now? Did they want to give it later? How much control did they want to give? It was not just about how much did you want to give. And so there'd be answers like, well, we'd be happy to give it to Jane and help her with the property, but if we give it to Johnny, he'll just splurge it all on nothing, you know. And so we'd have long discussions about this. And so what's the best way to give to your children, or give to, you know, charity or whatever? We had some clients who had no children, but large inheritance tax, and they wanted to mitigate it. So they had a number of nieces and nephews, and we have helped them set up various trusts for all these nieces and nephews who've accessed some of the money as they've gone on education trips, as they've gone on to university and that sort of thing. So it's given those clients a real sense of satisfaction that they're helping all these nieces and nephews. And now, as they're being born as well, we set up a new trust for we just set up a new trust for the newborn. So it's lovely having those kind of discussions. But the more discussions I had about this, I thought, I need to write about this.
Yeah.
I need to set something down. And it was lockdown that gave me the impetus. And also Rethink Press, who were promoting their coaching course for writing a book. And I thought, if I don't join this course, I'll never write this book. I'd collated some information and I'd done a bit of research, but you know what it's like. You find other things to do.
You do indeed, yeah.
And so I went on this course, and it has a very strict, disciplined method of writing a book, which I followed. And they say you can write a book in 90 days. And I tell you, you can write a book in 90 days. It takes much longer than that to get it edited, reviewed, and published, yes. But you can write it in 90 days.
And I think what is unique about this book is that it's not just about the money. It's not just about saying, well, you know, there's lots of talk, isn't there, around the world about the baby boomers as they are passing away, that there's something like $66 trillion worth of money and wealth that is cascading down to other generations. But it's not just about the money, is it? It's all about, you know, you talk in your book about the emotional and the psychological factors of giving that money away, and, you know, thoughts and things that people need to think about.
Yes, because, you know, a lot of people are worried about long-term care, you know, which is an issue. And you may be very well in your health, but, you know, if you get dementia, there's not a lot you can do about it. No. There's still very many people who haven't written wills, haven't set up powers of attorney. And I think sometimes it's just addressing that issue. Not many people, it's not a very pretty subject, is it? It's not a subject everybody wants to sort of sit and discuss about your impending death, but it is going to happen. And so do you want to leave a mess for your family, or do you want to have your affairs in order and make sure everything is sorted out to your satisfaction and the way you want it to be? Yes. And that's what the book's about, really. And, you know, just getting you to think about other matters, such as if you've remarried, if your children remarry, how you want to be remembered, this sort of thing. So, okay, it's not necessarily a pleasant subject to have to look at, but I think it's one that we should do. And it doesn't really, you shouldn't wait until you're old, because you can do, once you start to acquire assets, that's when you should start to think about writing a will, because you can rewrite it later on.
Yeah. And it's a good habit to get into, doing these things early, isn't it? Because it's just like going to the gym. You know, if you don't go to the gym till you're 50 and then think, right, I'm going to have to go 5 days a week, you know, as we know with New Year's resolutions, it's not going to happen for very long.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And I think, you know, I don't know whether, you know, being able to, I remember talking to George Kinder about, you know, his 3 great questions. And his last one was, you know, if you only had, you know, you're up to 24 hours to live and you were looking back on your life, what would you want, you know, what would kind of be on your epitaph, if you like, or, you know, what would be your achievements? And I guess it's a similar kind of thing, isn't it? Is to say, right, well, you know, what do you want? What do you want to give back? What do you want to leave behind? Not just the money, but are there particular memories of things, that you have the opportunity to create while you're younger?
That's right. How do you want to be remembered, and what can you pass on to the next generation besides money? You can still pass on your wealth of knowledge and experience. You can still pass on your memories to the next generation, who would probably really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think many generations take the older generations for granted, I think, don't they? Until as you get older yourself, then you realise, the difficulties, the different times and different experiences that, your parents, your grandparents, even your great grandparents in some areas, that we all are going through different times together at different points in our lives. And I think, your book is great about bringing out those key messages for anybody, financial planners included, as well as, the wider public, to think about, to take time and think of the joyful things, not just, as you said, it's not such a great subject to talk about, but there is joy in there, isn't there?
That's right. And the younger generation or the next generation can look back and or look over with fondness of what their family has given them over the years. Yeah. And they can share a little bit in the experiences. If you save photographs, if you save mementos, if you save stories that you can leave for them.
Yeah. That's really interesting, and definitely something that I think all of us should think more about engaging with, particularly if we've still got grandparents and parents, that to learn some of the stories, learn from those experiences, before they're all gone and it's too late. So let's talk about something kind of related to all of this, and that is about, your questioning skills and the kinds of questions that you might ask clients. And because I've noticed that there's been quite a rise in financial planners considering and seeking financial coaching. And I just wondered whether you share some of your experiences of the kind of great coaching and experiences that you've had. How do you improve the quality of those questions that you ask clients to get away from? Because I think I've come across quite a lot of planners who rely on the cash flow tool rather than using it as a tool.
Yeah, and it is a tool. And I've seen advisors almost try to sell the cash flow as if it's a product. And I've said to them, well, it's a tool. You don't say to your clients, I've got this financial calculator, do you want to buy it? Yes. It's a tool like any other tool. And it acts as a trigger, really, to help you form questions, frame questions, and put issues back to the client. So as I said at the beginning, my training as a probation officer was amazing. The intense education that I had, for example, I attended a 4-week course at the Tavistock Institute of Marital Studies to help divorcing and separating couples, because that was a role in the probation service which a lot of people are not aware of, and that we dealt with the children of divorcing and separating couples, and adoptions. We acted as guardian ad litem. So we worked as part of a multidisciplinary team with NSPCC, Bernardo, Social Services, the prison. And so you were going and dealing with very, very difficult, very sensitive subjects. So you had to be very conscious of your own beliefs, your own prejudices, your own obstacles, your own psychological and mental obstacles as well. And this is one of the things that we were helped to learn on the course. I went on that course thinking I was normal, coming out thinking, no, I'm not.
I'm sure most financial planners would do the same thing as well if they did that too. But that's, we're all different, and we all, our upbringing, the way that, we've lived our lives, colours how we behave, doesn't it? That's nature of who we are, isn't it? And I guess it's about recognizing those, the biases and, hurdles, as you say, and trying to set those aside so you can give impartial advice or impartial support to your clients. And I think, one of the things we've talked about, I think a few years back now, was about identifying when you have couples who come in, who's the dominating partner, and how to deal with the other partner who is, the kind of quite shy, retiring type, who might be, could be in a perfectly happy relationship, could be in a, suppressed relationship, potentially vulnerable. So what are the sorts of flags that pop into your mind when you have experienced clients, where one of the parties seems very dominant, doing all the talking, and the other one very quiet?
Well, we always involve both partners, and we always include both partners. And I'm very, very conscious of that, of including them and getting the quieter partner to open up and have a say. So we can understand, or all of us can understand, how they feel about matters, and giving them room and space to do that. But it takes skill. I mean, my job as a probation officer was to counsel people and to help them solve difficult problems. But I wouldn't do that as a financial planner, because I'm not a counsellor. I know my role. And I think the danger with some people going into coaching is that they can overstep the mark. You're there first and foremost as a financial planner. And though people may have relationship issues, you're not there to help them solve those relationship issues. Yeah. So it's just identifying what the problems are, the dynamics between them. Yeah. It can be sometimes that the quieter person is actually the power behind the throne. And yes, once they leave the office, makes all the decisions anyway. Yeah. And it's recognizing that. So you've got to be very good. People say, I'm a good listener. And I think, okay, you're a good listener, but what do you hear? Yeah. Because everybody may hear different things. And how good are you at observing non-verbal behavior? Yes. As well.
And I guess that's become more difficult because of the pandemic, if you've held client meetings on Zoom, I assume.
You can still do it on Zoom, because I had a trainee planner sit in with me on Zoom, and I said afterwards, did you notice that when you said such and such, or when I said such and such, they looked away, or they looked up in the sky, and they didn't notice?
Okay.
Obviously, it is better face-to-face, because you can use things on Zoom. But yes, you've got to be, and that's why I say you can't have a discovery meeting longer than an hour and a quarter, because if you're really giving that concentrated attention to the people, it's difficult to do more. You'd feel just exhausted at the end of it.
Yes. And, I bet the clients probably feel, a mixture of exhaustion and elation for having your support too.
Yeah, so they don't want to be involved in it for that much longer. Yeah. But I think that meeting is so important that when we then have the cash flow strategy meeting and they engage in that, and we come to all sorts of conclusions, and they come to all sorts of conclusions about going forward, we just then send off a written plan with all the forms. So generally we have 2 meetings, and the client send back all the documents after that.
Yeah. And you don't have any issues with them disappearing and saying, they'll send things back and then not sending things back?
No, we have a follow-up process. They might have a couple of queries that, they might ring up or send an email. Yeah. We offer them if they want to go through the report with us, we offer them that meeting, but very few people take it up, because when they get the report, they know more or less what's in it. Yeah. Because we've gone through it with them.
Yes. And I guess they see themselves in it, don't they? So when they see yourself in it, you think, yep, that's what I said.
And it's owning it. That's the thing that we see. Some people initially might pay lip service to it, especially the expenditure questionnaire, although we try and preempt any sort of problems with that. And you can tell if you get round figures like it's a 200 for this and 100 for that they haven't really, paid a great deal of attention to it. And then suddenly the penny drops. The penny drops and they say, can we have that expenditure questionnaire back? Because I think we could have added a few more things to it. And it comes back in great detail. And the clients who've been with us for a long time, we always get the figures back in detail.
Yeah.
Because they've owned it. They know it's about them and it's about their future.
Yes. And I think that's critical, isn't it, that you say about them owning it? Because I think as financial planners, the trap that many of us, or certainly I used to fall in when I was advising, is that I present you with my financial plan on your affairs, but actually that isn't going to work, is it?
No.
In a word. Absolutely not. Marlene, we are out of time. Wow. I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today, and thank you for sharing all of your pearls of wisdom and your journey to financial planning and beyond, and the very best of luck with your book. Now, I understand that you're going to have a big launch. Tell us all about that. When's that going to be? In March?
The 30th of March, and it will be in Cardiff. We've yet to finalise the details, but that's when we're hoping it will be. Given COVID restrictions, we'll be off then.
Yeah. Well,
so fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, and we wish you all the best. And thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thank you too, Jackie.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to other people's points of view about different things, all relating to our wonderful financial planning profession. If you know anyone who might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, please pass on our details to them. So that's it from me. Join me again next time when we'll be talking all things certified financial planner related, and also dropping in on our new entrants to the financial planning profession. Bye for now.